When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Clear sky. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. With crimson secrets and forbidden bliss, can't stay still, don't stop that thrill. My bones crave your skin, temptation within, mistakes ignite the silence. Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goal, a back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Lukman and Barnes supporting Ayoze Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goal, a back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goal, a back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Lukman and Barnes supporting Ayoze Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goal, a back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goal, a back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Lukman and Barnes supporting Ayoze Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goal, a back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goal, a back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Lukman and Barnes supporting Ayoze Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goal, a back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goal, a back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Lukman and Barnes supporting Iosi Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goalie, back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goalie, back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Luckman and Barnes supporting Iosi Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goalie, back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goalie, back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Luckman and Barnes supporting Iosi Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goalie, back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. There's an all-Premier League tie in the third round of the FA Cup at 3 o'clock as Leicester take on Watford. The sides sit 10th and 17th in the Premier League respectively, and as you'd imagine, they've made plenty of changes. Leicester have made 9, while Watford have made 7. The Foxes, decimated by injuries and availability issues with players off on international duty at the African Cup of Nations, and a senior debut to defender Lewis Brunt. They can only name 7 players on the bench, with Jamie Vardy and Johnny Evans added to an injury list, approaching double figures. Watford are, of course, without top scorer Emmanuel Dennis and also have a number of players absent at the AFCON, which means a senior debut for 20-year-old defender James Morris. Leicester line up 4-2-3-1 with Ward in goalie, back four of Albrighton, Brunt, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell. A midfield 2 of Thielemann and Chowdhury, with Maddison, Luckman and Barnes supporting Iosi Perez. For the Hornets, they're also 4-2-3-1 with Daniel Batman in goalie, back four of Ungakia, Sierralta, Cathcart and Morris. Tufan and Cleverley hold the midfield with Sissoko just ahead of them, and Hernandez and João Pedro either side of Fletcher. Well, a very warm welcome along to Independent Off-Tube studio commentary of the FA Cup third round match, an all-Premier League tie between Leicester and Watford. 10th in the table, 9th rather actually, Leicester, to 17th for Watford. And as you'd imagine, a number of changes for both sides. Injuries and player unavailability hurting both, I suppose you would say, and always the case at this time of the year that we get to see a few new fresh faces. Leicester have kicked us off in their usual blue shirts, white shorts and blue shorts, all red away kits for Watford today. And well, I turn up for the books already in the way they line up. Leicester looks like Chowdhury's going to play centre-half. We had him down as a midfield player with young Lewis Blunt playing centre-half. It looks like Chowdhury will be the man alongside Yannick Vestergaard in the back four. I'm Jack Ogilvie, joined by Jack Deaton, and both of us expecting quite an entertaining game.
Well, yeah, we're hoping so. I think, it's two sides in the Premier League, both missing quite a few players today. I think there's a little bit of, we don't quite know what to expect from certain people. Lewis Brunt, one that you mentioned, Vontae Daly-Campbell, another one which we're not overly sure of. And then for Watford, there's people like Ashley Fletcher playing, who we haven't seen for a long time at the highest levels. So I think it'll be quite entertaining. I think it'll be interesting to see how these teams go at it as well. Watford really have nothing to lose, because for them, I'm sure the focus will be on Premier League survival and not really a cup run. Whereas Leicester, the defending champions, of course, won't want to go out in the third round.
Yeah, winning it for the first time in their history last year after 3 previous final defeats. You've seen Brendan Rodgers cheering on his troops. Another tactical switch that he's thrown us by the looks of it as well. It looks like Ademola Lookman will play down the middle with Jose Perez as the right-sided midfield player. I'll run you through the lineups then. It's Ward in goal. This is Leicester. Albrighton, Chowdhury, Vestergaard and Daly Campbell, the back four. Brunt, who I have to say has made quite a confident start, and a couple of nice touches alongside Yuri Tiedemann in the middle of the park. Madison is the number 10. Barnes and Perez out wide with Lookman down the middle. Batman in goal for Watford. Back four of Ungakia, Cathcart, Sierralta and Morris, the youngster who's making his first start. Cleverly and Sissoko in the middle of the park. Tufan pushing on with João Pedro on one side, Hernandez on the other. And Ashley Fletcher, who Jack just mentioned, in attack. Leicester coming forward, going left to right as we look at his independent tube studio commentary. Ball in towards the centre of the pitch is easily cut out, but Sissoko's header away is not the best. And Leicester come again. Albrighton right back today. Such a versatile player. He finds Tiedemann, the man who scored that decisive goal against Chelsea last season. Whipped him by Albrighton, away by Sierralta. Chowdhury then wins it. It's cannoning around on the edge of the box. The foul there by Tom Cleverley. In front of our referee, who is Mike Dean today, the 53-year-old from the Wirral, taking charge of this game. And Tom Cleverley complains that it wasn't a foul, but of a player of 32 years old, I would suggest he shouldn't be making that foul, really.
Yeah, it's very soft, isn't it? He knows that in and around the penalty area, you can't afford to put your hands on anybody. We're talking here about an all-Premier League tie. As much as it's an FA Cup game, it's refereed by Premier League referees at the same standard as the Prem. So a touch like that in League One, League Two probably isn't going to give a foul. But as soon as the contact was made, the player goes down and unfortunately Cleverley gives away the foul. It's been a good start though from Leicester so far, dominating possession, which I suppose is what we would expect from the Foxes. Good opportunity from this free kick as well from Madison.
Yeah, James Madison stands over it, right of centre, so the wrong side you'd say for a right footer, but he clearly fancies it. Bachmann to the right of his goal in old mint green, I'd say, the Austrian, as Madison steps up, goes towards the keeper's side. Wall does his job, but he comes to Tiedemann, who strikes for goal. He's blocked off the back of Morris. Is up in the air. Vestergaard's there. Head is down into the ground. Comfortably in the end for the goalkeeper.
Yeah, it was a poor free kick, wasn't it, initially from Madison? And then I think Tielemans just has a hit to nothing, hoping that it'll bobble around somewhere. In the end, the move actually sort of dissipates and Bachmann makes a comfortable save. I think it might have been... yeah, it was. It was Brunt, who rose at the back post and nodded it back across. But a positive start from Leicester. Watford a little bit passive so far. They're in possession at the moment. Be interesting to see how they try and build in terms of attack.
Yeah, I mentioned both sides have made changes. Leicester have made 9, Watford have made 7. But you have to say, pretty strong lineups for both teams as Hernandez looks to play it round the corner. Vestergaard cuts it out, then Tielemans rolls it wide to Mark Albrighton. Vestergaard, who's struggled a bit since moving to Leicester from Southampton. Injury and illness, not his friend. Ndidi Amati starters against Liverpool. That was last time out. 1-0 victory for the Foxes on that occasion as Lookman goes through. Well, Daniel Bachmann has suggested it was a goal kick, but
comes over, so we can't just... It wasn't an angle to hit from a left, so he had to go right-footed. In the end, I think he's done well to get a corner because it looked like it may well have come off him last. But another set-piece opportunity, and with Vestergaard up there, I'm sure Watford will be busy here. Yeah,
all 6'7" of him, the Dane. And it will be Madison. Outswinging with his right foot. Right towards the back post. There's a push in amongst all of that. And there's a penalty kick's been awarded by Mike Dean. Sierralta, who's the rugged defender at the best of times. It'd be interesting to see this again. I think it was Brunt who went down. Oh, he was stood up, but it's just all a bit of a commotion. We're seeing it again. Sierralta's nowhere near him. And it's the right decision for me.
Yeah, it's Vestergaard, he was rattling away immediately. And the thing is, because Vestergaard was the closest player to the referee, the second that he's being accosted, Mike Dean focuses his eyes on him. He then weaves around the rest of the players. Sierralta brings him down. I mean, it has to be a penalty. It has to be. It's stupid for Sierralta to put his hands around him in that sort of position. Granted, we see it week in, week out, not given. But Mike Dean sees it,
I think it was Brun who went
to give it, and gives it. For me, it's the right decision.
Absolutely, yeah. He's nowhere near, is he, there, Sierralta? And it's an easy call for the referee to make. Sissoko and Sierralta questioning the decision. We do have VAR in this game, one of 9 of the 32 third-round ties. And this would never happen, but you would be tempted if you're a referee to show the replay to Sierralta and explain to me why that is not a penalty kick. It's just such a blatant foul, isn't it, by the Chilean defender. It's giving Yuri Tielemans the chance to open the scoring. Of course, scored that goal in the final last year. No Jamie Vardy today, so the Belgian takes over the penalty responsibilities, but has scored one earlier in the season. Short run up, strikes it right-footed and coolly past the goalkeeper, Batman. Batman went the right side to his right-hand side. However, Tielemans finds the side netting, 1-0 to the Foxes.
Yeah, it's a really nice penalty from Tielemans, as close to the side netting as you can get. Bachmann, to be fair, goes the right way, stretches well, just unable to get onto the end of it. But a really cheap goal and the worst possible start for Watford, because the penalty was daft to give away in the first place, and Tielemans from there, you would probably
scored
back.
one earlier in the season.
Well beaten,
short run up, strikes it
right
right-footed.
Great start for the Foxes.
Absolutely great start for the Foxes. And where do the Hornets go from here? They've lost the last 6 games, and you look at their upcoming Premier League games as well. Newcastle, Burnley and Norwich, all the teams in and around them before they face West Ham on the other side of the break on February the 8th. And confidence looked low when they lost to West Ham, I thought, on the 28th of last month. And, well, Claudio Ranieri, of course, back at the King Power. We've not mentioned him so far, but it's such a strange situation as he finds himself in. They had that great win against Manchester United, beat Everton as well. But that's not enough, is it?
No, it's not. Ultimately, what is enough for Watford, we don't know. We thought that promotion was enough to keep Xisco Munoz in charge. It wasn't. They went on a bit of a poor run, but they were still outside the relegation zone. They sacked him. They bring in Claudio Ranieri. You know, they got that great win over Everton initially, then beating Manchester United. But other than that, they've lost every other game. And I don't see any improvement. I think they've regressed under Claudio Ranieri from where they were under Xisco Munoz. The only reason why Watford aren't in the bottom 3 right now is because the bottom 3 have been as poor as they have been this season. I think the bottom end of the Premier League is particularly poor this year, and it's going to be 3 of those 4, Watford, Burnley, Newcastle and Norwich. But it just feels to me like Watford aren't going anywhere. And I think of those bottom 4, Watford are one of the more hopeless ones. I think Burnley might just do enough. Newcastle could definitely do enough depending on who they sign. I don't feel the same way about Watford.
No, neither do I. You imagine they'll do some business in the next few weeks. No Emmanuel Dennis today, of course. He's a huge miss for the Hornets. Here is Tufan. First time we've seen him cleanly taking the ball off him by Tielemans. The Turkey international was too soft there, and Sissoko comes across, arm across Tielemans. Needless foul. I'd say maybe a bit of one across the face of Tielemans, who's clutching his left chin. Sissoko pleads innocence, but I think he's the only one who doesn't think he's guilty in the King Power.
Yeah, I kind of get where he's coming from, because he tries to go shoulder to shoulder, but he's taller than Tielemans. So as he steps across, where he'd put his arm into the side of Tielemans, it just rolled straight up his shoulder into his face. So it's a silly one for Sissoko to do, because you've got to know what you're up against and not just throw your arm in. But ultimately, on second reflection, it is a foul and another set-piece opportunity for Leicester. Watford just need to be careful here. They can't keep giving away silly set-pieces to the Foxes.
No, they can't. 1-0 to Leicester if you just join us, as Maddison flips another free kick in. It's over Vestergaard. Fletcher just about does enough. I thought that may have been a foul by Barnes on Cleverly, and then it's a heavy touch by Ngakia. It'll be a throw-in to Leicester, around about 30 yards from the Watford goal. Speaking of those relegation rivals, Norwich are at Charlton tomorrow at 2 o'clock. That's a really tricky tie, you think, for the Canaries. Burnley have lost already today, losing 2-1 at home to Huddersfield, and Newcastle are playing Cambridge United 0-0 in that game. Kieran Trippier involved, I know that, as Lookman down the left-hand side. Great ball in, it's across the goal, and Albrighton was just half a step behind, to be fair to him. I don't think he's expecting it to be such a good ball by his teammate. Tied up nicely by Leicester. Thielemann now turns smartly and finds Albrighton. Ball watching by Tufan. Albrighton in. Poor clearance by Sierralta. Only comes to Maddison. Great play though by Cleverley on the edge of his box. On the outside of his right foot, he'll flick it forward towards Hernandez, who's got pace. Too much for Vestergaard. Here he comes, the Venezuelan. Edge of the box. Back to João Pedro. Cleverley can get the shot away, can he? Took too much time. Under pressure in the end by Thielemann, who cut back all the way and made life difficult, and Brunt did really well. Really cool play by the youngster on the edge of his own box to find Albrighton. Real nice feel to this game as Albrighton brings it forward. Jose Perez on the right hand side, ball almost cut out by João Pedro. I think he's going to have a big save for Watford in the second half of the season. He's not seen too much action due to injury in the first few months of the campaign, but a really talented player, the Brazilian, as Maddison turns on the halfway line into Jose Perez. Lookman's behind the referee, and good play that, actually. I think he was using him as an obstruction, so Watford weren't picking him up, and plays it to Maddison, directing the traffic. Maddison for a central position. Down the line is Barnes, who, I thought he'd done too much, but Sissoko almost gave it back to him. Now Ngakia, loose touch by him. He's been excellent when I've seen him this season, but not had the greatest start, the former West Ham youngster. Hernandez now back to Cleverley, under a bit of pressure, back to Hernandez. Watford, this is the best bit of possession they've had so far, but lacking a bit of control as Cathcart now will sweep it wide to the youngster Morris. Jack Morris on that left foot finds João Pedro, again just shows too much of it to Thielemann, but João Pedro battles away, and will he win the foot race? No, Thielemann, really good agility from the Belgian. Back to Danny Ward, who clears his lines up in the air, came down with a bit of snow on it, that one. Well, it was a foul by the youngster Morris there, but Mike Dean happy to wave play on, and Sierralta gets a touch to maybe just calm himself down and get into the game a bit.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Watford need to do that across the pitch as opposed to just with that one player. For me, they've been a little bit wild. It's almost felt like in the opening sort of 12 minutes at times, like it's been a friendly match, because Leicester have been in complete control. They've looked to cut above. I think Watford need just to settle into the game a little bit. I think a goal as early as it's come has meant that the game can't be cagey anymore, because Leicester aren't a side who play defensive football, so they'll be looking to keep going, and Watford, being behind, need to push themselves on the game as well. So the early goal, I think, has done wonders to the game as Watford try and break forward now.
Yeah, Fletcher switches the play nicely. Tufan touches the heavy one, but Morris onto it. Well played by the makeshift centre-half Chowdhury. Header away at the near post, but Watford come up with it. Tufan now floats it over the top. A man's gone down there, claiming a hand in the face. Cleverley comes forward. Back to Ngakia on the edge of the box. Left-footed shot from him. Blocked, I thought, by a hand maybe, of Brunt. Still that Watford player down. It's Hernandez as Ngakia again floats it in. It's over everyone though. João Pedro giving it the run. I think it was Daley Campbell, the youngster, who's involved in that potential scuffle with Hernandez. And João Pedro plays it on the left foot of Jose Perez, and we'll have a bit of a conversation with Mike Dean now. No movement though from the 53-year-old. Happy to wave play on. Norris's throw to Hernandez. He's back on his feet. It turns nicely. And back there is Thielemann, who's been the all-action man so far. Scored the goal from the penalty spot. This time, toe poking out for a corner kick, first for Watford of the game. Yeah,
better play from Watford over the last couple of minutes. I think they've acquitted themselves relatively well. The passing play was quite good, as much as it never really led to a chance. They were getting into good areas, moving the ball around well, and getting themselves a set piece, which equally for Leicester it was important. It's important for Watford today.
Ball ends a pawn at the near post, it's away by Jose Perez. You have to say the height advantage is something that Watford might look to play on in this game. They are quite a diminutive team today, barring Vestergaard, I would say. Leicester, Bachmann comes a long way on the halfway line and floats the ball right to left. Morris can head it back in, but there wasn't too much more he could do. But he's scampered onto the seconds and won it there. Sissoko, the skipper these days for Watford, signed from Tottenham in the summer. 1-2 between Fletcher and Cleverley. Eventually the ball's wide to Hernandez. Right-footed ball in. This is better from Watford. The shot comes in from Tufan on the... I was going to say bicycle kick. He was wheeling round there, wasn't he, Tufan, on the half volley. The ball was at hip height. It's always a difficult skill got underneath it and out into, well, I was going to say out for something. It was onto the roof of the net.
I think he'll be disappointed because I'm not sure whether he loses his balance or what he's trying to do, because it's not the worst of balls in from Hernandez, to be fair, and he's got his back to goal. He's trying to shift his weight, but because he's off balance, he leans back and blazes it over. So an opportunity missed. But again, Watford beginning to get into the game more and more, which is positive from their perspective. Yes, they are chasing it, but at least they've been pushing on their opponent over the last few minutes.
The player who's looked really sharp today so far for Watford is a player who's often questioned for not maybe scoring enough goals, but Ashley Fletcher's movement's been really good. He was in front of Tufan there and created that bit of space. Good link-up play as well from the former Manchester United and West Ham man. 26 these days, Ashley Fletcher. Where does the time go? He's just created a foul though, and it's Leicester again as Maddison works it wide to Barnes. The Leicester number 7 comes forward. Watford back in a bundle as Sissoko again fouls Maddison. It's too rugged to be an accident at the moment for Sissoko, isn't it? It's 2 or 3 now as Albrighton into Perez, back to Albrighton, the skipper today for the Foxes, looking to work his way past Morris and managed to get the ball away, but it's well done by the young fullback. Blocks it out for a throw-in to Leicester. Around about level with the 6-yard line on the right as they attack. They're going left to right on our TV pitches. Independent off-tube studio commentary. 1-0 to the Foxes. Yuri Tielemans' early penalty the difference. Morris is doing well so far. Once again, makes the tackle on Albrighton. Out for a throw right down by the corner flag. Just have a look at potential highlight scores elsewhere. Boreham Wood 1-0 up at home to Wimbledon. I think that was marked out pretty early as a potential upset, wasn't it? Apart from that, we've got the only other goal in the 3 o'clock games. Fulham have won at Bristol City after extra time. Middlesbrough 3-2 winners at Mansfield. As mentioned, Huddersfield 2 winners at Burnley. There's been plenty of goals about. Coventry 1, Derby 0, and Hartlepool 2-1 winners over Championship Blackpool as Watford tried to come forward. Looked like it was going to be a foot race between Daly Campbell and Ungakya, and with the ball had too much on it, out for a throw.
Yeah, they're just going through the motions a bit, Leicester, I think, at the moment. They've relinquished a bit of control in the game. It's allowed Watford to push forward and do what Watford want to do. But Leicester don't really look phased by it either. When Watford are going forward, other than the Ozan Tufan chance, we've not seen anything really from the Hornets. We're seeing a lot as well of Leicester almost at walking pace. They don't need to do anything. They're 1-0 up, they're content, they're comfortable, they look good on the ball as they enjoy a little bit of possession now for the first time in about 8 minutes.
Yeah, you feel a second goal for Leicester. It's pretty much there, isn't it? As Barnes controls a lovely pass by Chowdhury on the left-hand side. He cuts into the box, cuts back onto his right foot, looking to work his way past Ungaki, who stands strong and makes a good tackle. And young Daly Campbell happy to let the ball go out the left back. 2 rookie fullbacks, isn't there? As Daly Campbell was seeing there, he's a right-footer playing on the left-hand side. His ball back towards Barnes wasn't the best. Chowdhury sweeping up behind Vestergaard. And, well, Vestergaard showed too much of it to João Pedro, and the Brazilians got the legs on him too, into the box, and Chowdhury, ooh, lovely skill, flicks it over Pedro as he makes the tackle, but out for a corner kick. Leicester's midfield is pretty stacked, isn't it? I know they've got a lot of good defenders, but he's got the look of a good defender today.
Yeah, he did well, actually. He came across. His base position's quite good because he holds between João Pedro and Hernandez to the point that João Pedro takes that extra touch for him to then step across and deal with it. So he dealt relatively well with that, did Chowdhury, but I think it's a wasted opportunity for Watford.
Cleverly with the corner kick. Second for Watford. It's a long out swinger. It's over everyone. And it'll be Morris to pick up the pieces. Left-footed ball in's not a bad one. Vestergaard's up there. Comes to Sissoko. He'll fancy the shot. Goes for a goal. Decent effort. But always rising. And the Frenchman's effort into the stand behind Danny Ward's goal. Yeah,
I think even before he'd hit that, I don't think anybody expected it to ripple into the back of the net. He was leaning back, blazes it a long way over the crossbar. Again, it's another good opportunity for Watford, who've had more chances over the last few minutes than Leicester have, so that's a positive. They've certainly been getting into the game more and more, but I think Claudio Ranieri will be disappointed that Sissoko either didn't look for a different option or didn't hit the target.
Yeah, maybe should have done a bit better there. The Frenchman, 32 these days, same as Tom Cleverley. Leicester trying to play the way from deep. It's out to Daly Campbell. Back to Vestergaard. Fletcher just loses his footing, so that gives Vestergaard a bit more time. Ongakya wins the duel initially with Barnes, but Lookman picks up the seconds. Then Ongakya gets a toe in there, but I think the last touch did come off cleverly, so it'll be a Leicester throw on the halfway line in front of Brendan Rodgers' dugout, who is happy to issue some instructions. Big win, wasn't it, last time out? The 1-0 at home to Liverpool. Of course, we've had a bit of time off since then. Before that, I think there were signs in that 6-3 defeat at Manchester City, weren't there? As Barnes springs onto a throw, a cross goal by Barnes, no one there. Perez went near post. The right winger, Lookman, had been part of the build-up, so he wasn't able to get forward, but out of nothing there. The pace in this Leicester team almost catching Watford out.
It was just a throw-in. Sierralta and Cathcart went to sleep, and Barnes does well. This is what they're missing, though, when Jamie Vardy isn't around, is that person who gambles on absolutely everything and who can keep up with the pace of Barnes and Lookman when they break away. And there, Perez was 3, 4, maybe 5 yards behind the pace of the run as Barnes played it across. But again, Watford just need to make sure that they don't switch off defensively. You can't allow Leicester to do that because they will punish you.
Yeah, Tufan comes down the left-hand side. His ball in there was a tame one, is easily cut out by Chowdhury. His positioning is good again. Albrighton clips it forward, but Cathcart wins those all day. Now Sissoko can break from midfield. Here he comes, still going. No one's putting the tackle. He's still going. Well played by the young defender, though. It was Daly Campbell who made the challenge on the edge of the box, had to get it right, and did so with aplomb. Interesting you mentioned Jamie Vardy. Obviously 35 on Tuesday, if my calendar's correct. It's the old cliche, if you can't teach what he's got. Obviously he's got wonderful physical gifts, and he's looked after himself so well because he's still so sharp and still so quick and all those kind of things, but just knowing where to be, I wish I had it.
Yeah, his awareness and attacking position is almost second to none. Never mind the fact that when he gets into those positions, he can still finish and still outpace the vast majority of the defenders in the Premier League at 35. He's a real specimen of a player. But with Jamie Vardy, that mental aspect is just above everybody else. He's constantly 2 steps ahead of the defenders and a step ahead of his teammates. So then when they do what he's expecting them to do, he's stood there ready for it. He's absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
it's Daly Campbell on the ball. Unfortunately, Vardy has joined the Leicester injury list alongside Johnny Evans. It's a real tough time at the moment for Brendan Rodgers at the moment. I'll hand over to Jack in a second, but Jose Perez is coming forward. Lookman's in ahead of Cathcart. Too much pace from there. Lookman into the box. Sierralta's back. He wants a goal kick. Is it a goal kick or a corner kick? No, it will be a corner by the looks of it, and a perfect time to hand over to Jack Deaton to take us through until the interval.
Thank you very much, Jack Ogilvie. So an opportunity then for Leicester from this set piece. Straight away, there's been another goal elsewhere in the FA Cup where Peterborough lead Bristol Rovers by 1-0. Otherwise, a relatively quiet start to the 3 o'clock kickoffs in the FA Cup. So a corner for the Foxes, Vestergaard, Chowdhury, as well as Lewis Brunt and Harvey Barnes inside the penalty area. James Maddison over it, right-footed, out-swinging. He's got Ademola Lookman as a shorter option. Jose Perez is hanging around the edge of the 6-yard box as well. Is over, and it's a head-in-hands moment for Vestergaard, who got there, rose well, but couldn't turn it on target.
Yeah, it's a good ball in, isn't it? He gets the run. Sierralta's nowhere near him again, and he has that minute of hesitation, Sierralta, where he looks at the referee, knows where the referee is, he knows he can't pull him back because it'll be another penalty kick, and yeah, he just couldn't quite get over the man there. He got enough contact on it, Vestergaard, but Sissoko stood strong and made enough of himself of a nuisance to see it off to safety.
Here's Mark Albrighton, early ball through to Ademola Lookman. Lookman spins. Maddison could be in here. James Maddison slots it into the corner past Daniel Bachmann, and Leicester City double their advantage. A little bit of quality. Lookman with the reverse ball for Maddison, whose finish is sublime. Leicester 2, Watford 0.
Super finish, but it's all about the ball from Lookman. Reverse pass and great running from Maddison. Questions have been asked of him so far this season. That's what he gives you, so much energy. You've got to say, though, the Watford midfielder ball watching. No one's picking Maddison's run. Gets the wrong side of Cathcart. Lovely composure to dink it over the advancing backman. One touch from Lookman round the corner. Knows exactly what he wants to do. And wow, what a finish by Maddison.
Yeah, the more you see it, the better it gets, doesn't it? He just scoops it over Bachmann, who goes to ground early, trying to thwart the move. And in the end, James Maddison giving Leicester their second goal. Goals are beginning to go in elsewhere. Premier League side Brentford are leading Port Vale by a 1-0 at Vale Park, and Barnsley have taken a 1-0 advantage. Leicester City 2, Watford 0. Jeremy Ngakia trying to stretch his legs down that right-hand side. Good challenge, though, from Vontae Daly-Campbell, who's acquitted himself relatively well, the youngster at left back, as Watford have themselves a throw-in. And I suppose at 1-0, it was a difficult enough task for Watford to get back into the game. At 2-0, they're going to have to do something special now.
Absolutely, and the worry there for Watford is we've seen that goal before. Obviously, it was a wonderfully sophisticated bit of play by Lookman, and Maddison's finish was delicious, but at the same time, West Ham score the goal. João Pedro breaks in. Can he make it 2-1? Oh, what a finish. They're asking for the offside. I don't think the flag's going to go open. I was just about to make a point of how poor Watford's midfield has been tracking runners in recent times, but if you've got that kind of skill going forward, that finish was as good as Maddison's.
Yeah, lovely finish from João Pedro. Great little move from Watford down the right-hand side. Ashley Fletcher doing the hard work, holding the ball up. And in the end, it's a lovely little flick from him between Chowdhury and Daly-Campbell. And then João Pedro's finish is great. Scoops it over the top of the goalkeeper. It's almost to James Maddison, if you can do that, I can do this, and just dinks it into that top corner. It's a superb finish, isn't it? And it's Watford 1, Leicester 2.
Yeah, just have a look at what the Leicester defenders are asking for then. Didn't quite see any infringements myself, but yeah, he's a player of some skill, I always think. João Pedro is kind of Mark II Richarlison, isn't he? Maybe a bit more direct at times and maybe a bit more pleasant with his teammates at times as well. But what a finish that was.
As Leicester try and come forward straight away here. Long ball up towards Maddison. Finds Barnes, left-hand edge of the 18-yard box, trying to dance along the edge of the penalty area. Here's Maddison into Barnes, but the offside flag is up. James Maddison coming back from an offside position. So it will be a free kick for Watford on the edge of their own box. And I mean, I was saying that Watford have got a mountain to climb. It's now back down to a hill because that's the perfect response to going 2-0 down.
They're halfway up that mountain at the moment, aren't they? And Claudio Ranieri already more animated. He's saying, put pressure on this defence. They've played well so far, have the Leicester defence, but it's a makeshift back line. We mentioned youngster Daly-Campbell, Chowdhury, usually midfield players playing in the back four, so there will be chances, but it's about keeping them out at the other end.
Yeah, as old Brighton lofts the ball forward, looking for Ademola Lookman. The offside flag is up on this near left-hand side. The two Watford centre-halves, Sierralta and Cathcart, were asking for the flag to go up early. Obviously, the directive is to keep it down, but it looked like Lookman was off all the way through that move as Brendan Rodgers takes down a few notes on a notepad. I'm sure he won't be too displeased with what he's seen from his side so far. The ease, I suppose, at which Watford scored their goal won't please him, but otherwise, they've not done too much wrong.
No, not at all. And as well, it's hard not to see a third goal from Leicester at some point in this game. They won 4-2, didn't they, the last time these two sides met, and Watford haven't won at the King Power since 2013, so history's on Leicester's side. I'm just looking at Watford again. They need to sign a bruiser in midfield, don't they? They need someone who's going to... The ball travels too far when the opposition has it. Players are allowed to just kind of saunter forward and no one engages them. No one wants to make that tackle, and that'd be worth, I would say, 6-7 points for Watford if they sign the right player for that role.
Yeah, Leicester, of course, have a player like that in Wilfred Ndidi, who's that type of outfit. As Watford try and come forward here, Tom Cleverley, though, has to go back to Moussa Sissoko inside the centre circle. The Frenchman has a look up and finds Cleverley, who tries to turn on the ball, just gets caught on it, but in the end rides the challenger Maddison and finds Hernandez. He's got Ashley Fletcher ahead of him, but Hernandez runs into traffic. Daly-Campbell, the man in the way, and now Leicester can try and break with Maddison out to the left-hand side, and Lookman back for Maddison again, midway inside Watford territory. Maddison trying to turn and twist past Sierralta. Good challenge, though, from the defender. In the end, Leicester have to go backwards and restart as we head towards the half-an-hour mark. Leicester 2, Watford 1. Independent, unofficial, off-tube, studio-based coverage of the FA Cup this afternoon. Bristol Rovers have equalised against Peterborough at the Western Home Stadium. Peterborough 1, Bristol Rovers 1. As Vontae Daly-Campbell finds Yannick Vestergaard, who sort of threw his arms in the air there, Vestergaard, when the ball was played back to him. I think perhaps frustrated that a different option wasn't used, as The Dane switches the play, and Albrighton helps it down the line to Jose Perez. Perez trying to skip away from, it's Ozan Tufan who got back there to defend. The Turkish international did well. And then Ashley Fletcher's little flick down the line sort of bounces off a couple of players. Bit of ping pong down on this Leicester right before Daniel Bachmann hooks the ball out of play for a cheap throw-in for Leicester, who the base position is so high that it's making it difficult. They're not really putting a lot of pressure on Watford when they're in possession, but they're also leaving no options for Watford when they do have the ball.
Yeah, exactly. They're putting a real good squeeze on, aren't they, at the moment, Leicester and Thielemann. And I had to say, Brunt's been really good so far. He's just so confident and cool on the ball as he finds his fellow youngster, Daley Campbell. It'll be interesting to see what the possession stats. It's got to be 70s, hasn't it, you think, for Leicester?
Yeah, something like that, as Tielemans finds Albrighton here, 35 yards from goal. He floats it towards the left-hand side. Barnes is the man who rises. Falls to Lookman, who tries to turn inside the box. Now Daley Campbell up against Ngakia. Tries to stab it through, but it's good defending from Jeremy Ngakia. And now a chance for Watford to break with João Pedro. Out to Juan Hernandez on the right-hand side. João Pedro's continued his run in field. Hernandez tries to find him down the line. It's blocked, though, by Vontae Daley Campbell. So will be a Watford throw-in midway inside Leicester territory. Hernandez back to, that's Cleverly. And now Sierralta with the young man James Morris on this left-hand side. And now Ozan Tufan, and Watford just enjoying a little bit of possession. Claudio Ranieri's side, you can see they're beginning to grow in belief. I think they actually think they can get something from this game. They're trying to commit their opponents, trying to get at them, as Ngakia's little reverse no-look pass is well watched by Yannick Vestergaard, who slides in. The ball bounces off Hernandez and goes behind for a goal kick. But it's been better from Watford.
It has been much better from Watford. Obviously, the goal will have given them some confidence, and you feel they do have to score, well, at least twice more, don't they, to win this game. But at the same time, you can't see them not conceding again. So attack is the best form of defence, and they have got talent out there. João Pedro, the goal scorer. Hernandez is a good player. Fletcher's hold-up plays absolutely excellent. So they do have goals in them, or at least chances in them. They need a bit of help from the midfield. Again, Sissoko's ball forward, overly ambitious maybe. He's playing almost the Busquets role in this midfield, isn't he, today, Sissoko? He did so against West Ham as well quite recently, and I'd quite like to see him further on receiving the ball where it lands, where he's trying to play it.
Yeah, you'd think of him more as a box-to-box midfielder than a holding one. Possession stats not quite as one-sided as we thought. 54% in favour of Leicester, 46 for Watford. I think that was 7 attempts for Leicester and 5 for Watford as well. So it's a relatively even game statistically. The scoreboard shows Leicester 2, Watford 1, with just over 33 minutes on the clock. And a Leicester throw in here just inside the Watford half for Vontae Daley Campbell to take. Harvey Barnes just stretching something out there. The last thing Leicester need are any more injuries. They've got 7 substitutes today as opposed to the 9 that you are allowed. So they're certainly struggling in terms of available players. Despite it being a relatively strong Leicester side, the last thing they need is any more players to end up on the injury table. And I suppose that's why Leicester have had the, I say, difficult start. 9th in the league isn't a difficult place to be, but it is when you're Leicester City, who people expected to be pushing top 4.
Exactly, and they've struggled with the rotation as well. It comes with playing in the Europa League, fans to winning this competition last term. And when you look at the side today, obviously Schmeichel's on the bench, but you've got Justin, Thomas, Fofana, Soyuncu, Evans. That'd be a pretty good back 5, wouldn't it? I think they're all out at the moment. Evans, Soyuncu and Fofana certainly are. Midfield-wise, a couple more, and Didi's away at the African Cup of Nations. The same for Nampalys Mendy. I know he's a squad player, but still he's a very, very good player. And it's such a strange season as it is, but it's amazing how, I think, because we had the Euros in the summer and a few other bits and pieces, First yellow card of the day as well. That was a challenge of a rookie defender against a player who's played 2.5 years in the top flight or in the top 2 tiers at Leicester. And Gaki knew exactly what was coming, shaped to go, invited the challenge, knocked it past the man and was happy to take the contact.
Yeah, and an opportunity then for Watford. Just confirmation on our screens, independent unofficial off-tube studio-based commentary of Vontae Daly-Campbell's yellow card as cleverly whips it in, headed away by Tielemans, only as far as James Morris, midway inside his own half. Inside the Leicester half. Morris with a hopeful ball forward. Danny Ward gets there just about. Sierralta underneath him as he caught the ball. It's one of those, as a goalkeeper, you don't want to go dropping that, and he did well in the end, did the Welshman, to make sure he maintained it.
He had to as well. He came a long way there, Danny Ward, who's a player we've not really mentioned so far in this game. A rare start for him, looking to impress, and I was a bit worried for him halfway out, and then when he made contact, I think he may have had a couple of juggles with it, but did enough in the end, the Welshman.
As he's got the ball in his hands here, the goalkeeper, courtesy of a nod back to him by Hamza Chowdhury. Now out on the left-hand side, Vontae Daly-Campbell up to the halfway line to James Maddison, who just drifted out on the left just to get involved. Long ball forward from Lewis Brunt is a good one once again to Ayoze Perez. Mark Albrighton makes an overlapping run. Albrighton now trying to keep it in at the byline, manages to just about bring it back, but Daniel Bachmann will claim that on the edge of the 6-yard box. Just looked like he got sold short there by Ayoze Perez, who put a little bit too much on the ball, forced a lot from Albrighton. There's Watford in possession now on the halfway line. João Pedro back to Sierralta. And now Craig Cathcart, who we've not mentioned much yet this afternoon, not had much of an involvement so far. Ball down the line looking for Cleverly. Gets there ahead of Vestergaard, then goes to ground, looking for a free kick. Tom Cleverly, I think he's won a throw-in rather than a free kick, even though it looked like it came off the Watford man, but Jeremy Ngakia will go across and take this with options around him. Juan Hernandez, the most attacking one of those. This throw-in level with the edge of the 6-yard box on the right-hand side. It's a really poor pass back to him by Cleverly, but they've won the ball back off Harvey Barnes, should I say. As then the ball in towards Ozan Tufan will be cleared away by Mark Albrighton. One for Ademola Lookman to chase, putting Daniel Bachmann under pressure, and Bachmann sort of took 2 or 3 attempts to try and get there. In the end, clears it off Ademola Lookman and gets a bit fortunate, the goalkeeper.
He hesitated for half a step there, didn't he, Bachmann, and rather than us coming onto it and putting his left foot through, he can play with his left foot. He's one of the most 2-footed goalkeepers in the league, I always think. Bachmann, he just had half a second there, and Lookman, his eyes must have lit up, but the goalkeeper just about had enough time and space to be able to fire it onto the on-rushing forward and out for a throw to his own side. But it was one of those moments where your heart's in your mouth a bit.
Here's Maddison just inside the Watford half, has to turn back to Vestergaard, who fizzes one out to the right-hand side of Mark Albrighton, who's got time and space to whip a dangerous ball in. Important piece of defending from Sierralta to get there, as Perez is then beaten to the punch by Musa Sissoko, who finds Sierralta inside the Watford penalty area. The defender has to hook it clear, but only as far as Chowdhury into Maddison. Now Albrighton on the right-hand side exchanges passes with Tielemans, not once but twice. And the Belgian will try and get away here from Ashley Fletcher, who did his best, almost pushing and pulling Tielemans, who thinks he was fouled. The referee disagrees. Now maybe a chance for Watford to break away as João Pedro finds Tom Cleverly. Back to João Pedro again. He's got Ozan Tufan on the left, or Juan Hernandez on the right. That's where he's played it. And Ngakia is on a inverted overlap, shall we say, running inside as Hernandez gets away from Vontae Daly-Campbell, he falls and then lands on the leg of Hernandez, who's rolling around in quite a bit of pain here. And the Watford players are saying that Daly-Campbell's on a yellow card, he should be gone. Mike Dean's going to go across, I think, and just give him a final warning, and that's what he's got. So instead it will just be a Watford free kick.
Yeah, I think he'll get another go. He won't need the youngster. It's a sore, and I think it's more he slips into him than fouls him, and that's probably bought him another chance there. Sissoko is asking the question once again. Watford players, as you imagine, are all around, and yeah, he just loses his foot, and there's not really much he can do, and I think that's a fair call by the referee.
Yeah, he almost immediately apologised as well, didn't he, Daly-Campbell, to both the referee and the assistant, as Mike Dean's just dragging over Musa Sissoko and Tom Cleverley here just to have a word. I think because of all the protests in regards to the yellow card, because they were certainly asking for another yellow card to be shown to the young defender.
Yeah, but Watford are losing this game, and they've just wasted 3 minutes complaining about a decision that's not going to be overturned. Just get on with it. They're still going on about it. It's their time, this.
Yeah, Hernandez is still down at the moment, incidentally. Ozan Tufan's the man with the ball in his hand, as James Maddison is also involved in this argument with the rest of the players. Just seeing it again. So Hernandez steps in field, and the reason why it's a sore one for Hernandez, it's almost knee to knee as Daley Campbell falls. So it will have hurt Hernandez, who is now back on his feet. I'm sure he'll be fine. It'll just be a sore impact injury. Leicester's third foul of the day. 2 of them have been committed by Vontae Daley Campbell, who I'm sure is, if he wasn't walking on a tightrope before, I think a couple of the strings of the tightrope might have just snapped on him. So he'll be really, really keen not to end his day with a sending off. He'll be doing everything he can now just to be careful, and I'm sure it's one that Brendan Rodgers will look at and think, have I got any other options? Is there anybody else who could come on and play at left back? But a free kick for Watford first. Ozan Tufan over it. Does have options in the middle. João Pedro, Ashley Fletcher, Francisco Sierralta and Craig Cathcart all in there, with Cleverley and Morris on the edge of the box as well. Mike Dean just making sure everything's how he wants it to be, as Tufan steps up, right-footed, whips it in. It's only half cleared. Morris will try and hit this left-footed back across the penalty area. Cleared away, and then Cleverley just heads the ball straight up in the air. And then a battle in the middle with Harvey Barnes, and João Pedro ends in Tielemans hooking the ball away, only for Watford to potentially put themselves in trouble, but the ball goes back to Daniel Bachmann. And as you say, frustrating that Watford wasted the time there, because as much as Hernandez was injured and receiving treatment, they were beginning to assert themselves on the game. They had that little bit of momentum, and they almost killed it themselves.
And then from that free kick, it needs to be a good ball in. Tufan's ball just about beats the first man, but it's chest height for anyone who wants to get there. It's an easy clearance by the end, by Leicester. And this is the thing that it's frustrating about Watford, in that they do have good players, and you just want them to concentrate on the game, do the basics, and things will be a lot easier for them. But it seems like overcomplicating and then not doing the basics right, not tracking runners, not marking men, getting almost too involved in the game without seeing the bigger picture. Yeah,
Zangakia's ball forward runs through to Danny Ward into the final minute then of the opening 45. Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes were 2-0 up and then pegged back almost within a minute of scoring the second goal, as Jose Perez finds Yuri Tielemans here. Good ball from Tielemans into Maddison, who plays an early ball looking for Lookman, but just had a little bit too much on it. Ran through to Daniel Bachmann, who I would say will claim it comfortably, but it wasn't necessarily as comfortable as he would have liked. Now Ozan Tufan on the right-hand side, just inside his own half, just looking to try and start a Watford move late at the end of this first half. Barnsley have doubled their lead over Barrow. Barrow also down to 10 men, so they lead 2-0. Reading are a goal to the good against National League North side Kidderminster Harriers. That's the only other new goal, as it were, in the FA Cup. That's James Morris on the left-hand side. Tries to play it down the line, blocked away as the board goes up at the end of this first half for, I think that's 2 minutes. Yes, it is. So we're 5 seconds into the 2 added on. A big half-time then, I suppose, for both managers. Brendan Rodgers first. I suppose he'll be relatively pleased that his side are ahead despite all the changes.
He'll be very pleased, but I think he'll also be saying, if we get another goal, this tie's pretty much gone. But Watford are the team going into the sheds in the ascendancy, I'd say, at the moment. And Claudio Ranieri will be telling his team that. He'll say that we've not won, or we've lost our last 6 games. This is a good chance for us to build a bit of confidence. Maybe it's not ideal that it's in the FA Cup, but a win's a win. It's a good habit to be in.
Here's Morris down the left-hand side, midway inside the Leicester half. Attempted ball in, blocked by Tielemans. He finds Sissoko instead, who's dead centre of the Leicester half. He sort of slips as he plays that ball with his shin. And now Cleverley has it on this near touchline once again. Morris makes an overlapping run. Cleverley plays it behind him, so Morris is forced to go straight back to Cleverley as they just go through the gears a little bit here. Watford moving the ball from left to right, and Ngakia skipping in field, but again forced backwards because Leicester are holding the shape well. They're making it tough for the Hornets to break through. Here is Morris once again on this near left, back for Cathcart, who floats the ball forward, looking for Ngakia, brings it down right-hand edge of the 18-yard box, up against Fonte Daly-Campbell, and well, he does skip away from him into the area, pulls it back for Hernandez, saved by Ward, then the second shot comes in, and again Ward gets up well, gets there ahead of João Pedro, and quells the move, but that was a good Watford move, and Jeremy Ngakia more or less created it himself.
Yeah, it's been a real outlet down the right-hand side as Ngakia plays it back to Hernandez, who strikes it well. Ward and Shari get it away between them. It's back in by Ngakia. And the goalkeeper shows good bravery to dive in ahead of Ashley Fletcher, but Watford's certainly in the ascendancy now.
Yes, Mike Dean blows for half-time. So Leicester were 2-0 up. Tielemans and Madison giving them the lead. João Pedro's goal pegged it back. So it's well poised at half-time at the break at the King Power. It's Leicester 2, Watford 1.
Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty. Arthur Sierralta had fouled at Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Madison, a lovely dink to finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, following a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dink to finish, on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. The Foxes made a dominant start, going ahead after 7 minutes. Yuri Tielemans stroking home a penalty after Sierralta had fouled Vestergaard on 25. It was 2-0. James Maddison, a lovely dinked finish on a fabulous through ball by Ademola Lookman. Watford looked like they're out of the tie, but responded almost immediately. Another fantastic finish, this time by João Pedro, who's been the Hornets' best player. This tie is certainly alive, and it's 2-1 at the break. Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 1. We'll leave that just about there. Then a very warm welcome along and back to the independent off-tube studio commentary of Leicester against Watford. The Foxes 2-1 up at half-time. Goals from Tielemans and Maddison making the difference. João Pedro, the goal scorer for the Hornets. A penalty for Tielemans and two wonderful finishes from Maddison and João Pedro each. I just hesitated there because Cathcart fired his clearance against Ademola Lookman. And Leicester are going to come up with the seconds. Albrighton down on the right-hand side. He's got the wrong side of Morris. Albrighton still going. Looks for a teammate. Maddison, he's got time, and too much of it. Eventually, he loses out. Just wanted to take on one too many there, Maddison, but he could have got the shot away. João Pedro now break down the centre of the field. It's a real helter-skelter start. Chowdhury plays it against João Pedro. Can he get the equaliser? Scored one already, the Brazilian. He holds it up. Chowdhury makes life difficult for him. João Pedro dances with it. Back to Tufan now on the edge of the box. He goes for goal. Always rising wide of the target. And what a thrilling start to this second half. I'm Jack.
A mistake from the obviously Leicester then not able to do anything with it. It felt like Maddison, when he got into the box, just needed to toe it early. Took a couple of touches too many and then got caught. And then down at the other end, Watford, through João Pedro, he just never got the ball ahead of him. It stuck to his feet, went underneath him slightly, and then he couldn't drive on, which is why he was then unable to get the shot. Did well to hold it up and, you know, eventually get an opportunity, but I think they'll be disappointed that it wasn't any more than that. But a bright start from both sides, not necessarily what either manager would have wanted to see. But again, an exciting way to start this second half. Yeah, news of a change for Leicester. Vontae Daly-Campbell struggled in the first half, really picked up a yellow card as well. He's been replaced by Wanya Marçal Madavadua. He was on the bench against Legia Warsaw in the Europa League, but a debut for the Portuguese youngster, 19 years old. He's gone into the middle of the park, and Lewis Brunt, who looked very composed in central midfield in the first half, he's gone now to left back.
floats the ball forward. Brunt, Sierralta wins it, but Barnes picks up the seconds. Madison down the left-hand side if he wants him. Yes, Madison receives it from Barnes. In the gloves today, Madison. Marcel Madavadua gets his first touch and sweeps it wide nicely to Chowdhury. The team's then warding goal for Leicester. Back four of now Brunt, Albright, and they're the full-backs with Vestergaard and Chowdhury in the back fours. Marcel Madavadua doesn't lack for confidence. Drifts past one, dances past another, goes for a goal. Efforts blocked out. Tielemans and Marcel Madavadua in the middle of the park with Barnes, Madison, and Perez supporter. Lookman for Watford, Batman in goal, and Gaki, Cathcart, Sierralta, Morris the back four, Cleverly and Sissoko in the middle of the park. Two fans slightly ahead of them with Fletcher, Hernandez and João Pedro in attack. Short corner kick, Lookman turns and he'll find Tielemans on the edge of the box. He opened the scoring from the penalty spot. Lookman has it again. Wants to go down the right-hand side, or down onto his left-hand side rather, but it's well marshalled by the Watford defenders. But Madavadua will pick up the pieces. He's down as Marcel Madavadua, but he's got Madavadua on his shirt, so I think we'll go with that just to make it easier for myself and Jack. But certainly doesn't look to lack for any confidence, does he?
He's been good actually since coming on. When he won the corner a few moments ago. As Watford try and come forward, the pass may well fall for Fletcher inside the area, just can't get away. He goes down under the challenge of Lewis Brunt. Nothing's being given. Be interested to see what the referee thinks or what the VAR thinks. But no, Madavadua's looked bright. He won the corner last time around, just jinxing away. But just seeing this again, it was a big chance this for Watford.
It was a big chance, and well, the touch for me from Fletcher. I'd be surprised if he gets his penalty. João Pedro trying to play him in. He goes through the legs of Chowdhury, off his instep, into Fletcher's path, who touches it away from Brunt, and they come together. But yes, it's play on according to Mike Dean. A bit more of a careful touch there from Fletcher. It might be a penalty kick, but it's quite clear what he's trying to do, isn't it? And I don't think you get those these days.
No, he takes a heavy touch, and then he's just hoping that somebody comes clattering into him, and in the end, Brunt actually didn't. He stood his ground, maybe a little bit of shoulder to shoulder, nothing more than that. Fletcher, I think, just chancing his arm and getting nothing.
Yes, Madison turns in the middle of the park and then fizzes it wide. It's behind, though, Harvey Barnes. And it's out for a throw to Watford in their right-back area. All red strip for the Hornets this afternoon. Looking ahead, we mentioned they've got some big games to come in the Premier League. Newcastle, Burnley and Norwich, their next three games. And you have to feel, for all those clubs, the next three round of Premier League fixtures are probably going to define their season, with all that's going on with absentees and injuries and potentially players coming in too, as Albrighton looks to deliver from the right-hand side. Was that a handball? No, but well, it may have been, but Perez was happy to dance onto it. Advantage was played, and Leicester couldn't make the most of it as João Pedro works it wide to Hernandez. Good chest control by the Venezuelan, and then an even better play. Off balance, but found cleverly, and there's space here for Watford. Two-fan round the corner. If he'd found, I was going to say if he'd found Fletcher, Fletcher was in, but then Tielemans and Chowdhury fouled each other, and Chowdhury's still down. We'll have to keep an eye on that as Albrighton comes away, and Ayosi Perez has it. He plays it behind Barnes, throws his arms up in frustration. This is a real good open field to it now, this game. Hernandez into Fletcher, and Gaki's in acres of space. He's going to go for a goal himself. It was always the wrong option from Fletcher, always rising, little backlift as well. Tough skill that, and out for a goal kick. But we praised Leicester in the first half. This makeshift backline done pretty well, I thought. In fact, it's actually a corner kick. The touch came off Vestergaard, although it wasn't going to hit the target if it hadn't. But this looking a bit shaky now, the Foxes.
Yeah, they're not being careful in possession. They keep presenting it to Watford, and then the Hornets are coming back the other end with interest. So it's been a really bright start from the Hornets, who are trying to get forward at every opportunity. And Leicester just look a little bit rattled. I think potentially the change in personnel and the change of where people are positioned isn't helping. As Watford take the corner.
Don Cleverley's ball in. It's not a bad one. It's headed by Sierralta. It's controlled by João Pedro away from goal. He's still going. He wants to set himself up for an overhead kick. Eventually rolls it back to Cleverley. He plays in. It wasn't a sympathetic ball by Pedro. Allow Brunt to get it away. Sissoko will go back towards his own goalkeeper. In fact, all the way back to Bachmann, who's in an advanced position in his half. The only player in the Watford half for a spell there was the Austrian goalkeeper, but really good signs these for the Hornets. Obviously be easy to get downhearted. A lot of the best players are away at the moment or injured, but they're certainly taking the fight to the Foxes, and we can maybe argue as well the Foxes are allowing them back into the game.
They are. They're keeping themselves nice and open at Leicester, which it's sort of the way they play. They're not usually a staunchly rigid side, but because they're as fluid and as open as they are, Watford are just getting at them. And I think they're specifically targeting this right-hand side, going at the slower Vestergaard, the less experienced Brunt. When they do get down the right, it drags the full Leicester unit across for them to then switch the play out to the left. So at the moment, the way that Watford have started this half is working for them. It's just whether Leicester can adjust to that and equally do what Leicester do best, which is drive forward on the counter-attack and try and get themselves that third goal. Because, you know, we discussed it off air at half-time that it feels like if Leicester get one more, it's probably game over.
You'd think so. Just the lack of belief in the Hornets lineup as Maddison breaks down the right centre of the field to find Lookman, and he's played a ball through to Barnes. It's Barnes onside. He finishes well. All eyes on the offside flag. Barnes wheels away, but he looked half a yard. That was the case. Just too keen there, Harvey Barnes. Good finish, good build-up play, but always looked the wrong side of the line.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying in terms of the quick counter-attack. Within 2 passes, Harvey Barnes was through. It's a nice bit of play initially, and just looking, and I think Barnes is onside here.
I think he's onside as well there. We'll definitely look at that. Just we don't need the lines because he was on the line of the cut of the grass there, wasn't he? And, well, for me, he's on side there. He's pretty philosophical about it. Mike Dean's just listening to his earpiece. He's close call is what he's mouthing to the players. So we're going to have a look. And he's onside, 3-1.
Yeah, nice finish as well from Barnes, to be fair. The move is a good one. The pass from Lookman's perfect for Barnes, who just opens himself up, slots it almost straight down the middle past the on-rushing backman. I think the fact that the offside flag didn't go up is what, you know, might have just offset Watford. They might have thought he was offside. Barnes kept his composure and scored. Incidentally, a goal to tell you about elsewhere at St James's Park. Newcastle 0, Cambridge 1.
League One, aren't they, Cambridge, these days, and a real team for the Cups at the start of the 90s with Dion Dublin and Steve Claridge, John Beck in the dugout, all those kind of things. And, well, I've not seen what kind of team Newcastle have put out today, but I imagine that Eddie Howe would have looked at this as a chance to build a bit of confidence, but it seems to be the way at the moment for the Magpies. Back underway here. Barnes has got the Leicester's third goal. How are the Hornets going to react?
Well, arguably they have to react quickly like they did when they conceded the second earlier. They have to get Leicester straight away, try and get themselves a goal back, because the longer Leicester have a 2-goal lead, the more difficult it gets as a shot comes from 35 plus yards out that sails a long way over the crossbar. That says it all. Frustration from João Pedro. You mentioned the Newcastle side and wondering what team they put out. They've gone almost as strong as they could possibly gone. The likes of Sam Maximan, Trippier's playing, Fabian Schär is in there, Martin Dubravka's in goal. So Eddie Howe picked a strong side and they trail by a goal to 0.
Yeah, that's not going to help their confidence, is it? The Magpies, if things stay as they are, I can't imagine it's going to help the mood either at St James's. We mentioned Watford up next for Newcastle. This time next week, in fact, Newcastle's over upcoming fixtures, Leeds away from home, Everton at home, the return of Rafa, and all that'll go with that, Aston Villa as well. As looks like a triple change for Watford. Kuchar, Goslin and Ken Sema. And, well, Goslin's asking Claudio Ranieri what my instructions are as he's about to walk on the field. So that's not great, I would say, from an onlooker's point of view.
Yeah, it's never a great sign, is it?
And if things have got even better, the floodlights have gone out.
Yeah, what a... yeah, how strange. Yeah, I don't think it's the greatest preparation, is it? Seeing your player asking for last-minute instructions. Ashley Fletcher's one of them off for Ken Sema. But I think this is what Watford need to do. They needed to do something different. As much as they came out the blocks and were looking better, it wasn't good enough. They still conceded out of nothing. So they have to do something different and potentially Ken Semmer can bring that. He's direct, he gets at people, which is good. Dan Gosling, I'm not sure what really he will bring that's different to Tom Cleverley. I know Gosling's a bit more industrious, I suppose, than Cleverley, so perhaps when we were talking about a holding midfielder earlier, it's what they need. And Kutsar is a good player. I've been impressed with him. He's box to box. He's quite heavy-handed. He gets at his opponents. The substitutions are going to happen at some point, but the lights are still off.
Yeah, we were hoping to talk our way through that, weren't we? But yeah, Dan Gosling's going to come on. But it looked straight. It almost looked like Dan Gosling was saying, "Am I playing in midfield?" to Claudio Ranieri there. He had his hands out and saying, "Whereabouts do I need to be?" And Kutsar, yeah, I expected a bit more from him when he came in. Obviously, a real pedigree player. He's played in AC Milan, a lot in Italy, played in Turkey, and an experienced player. He's not been as physical as I thought Kutsar would have been. Maybe just the wrong side of the age range to be as destructive as he was. I remember at Euro 2016, especially in the build of that competition, it was absolutely fantastic. It was Juraj Kutsar. He might be a key man if they can get him in that position as the destroyer in the middle of the park. I think that could be his role to come. But the players are going to have a bit of a water break as the electricians, I suppose, get things going again. Hopefully the phones are out at the King Power Stadium. Everyone's trying to do their bit as the floodlights have gone out. If you're just about joining us, Leicester 3, Watford 1. And not being an engineer myself, I don't know how long these things take.
Well, it's more that when they go out, they then take a while to warm back up and to get going again. So that's probably the bigger issue, is if they've just shorted and then restarted, it'll take a while for them to get going. I think the stoppage actually works in Watford's favour very, very well, because they conceded a couple of minutes ago. They're now trying to rebuild themselves and get back into the game. So I don't actually think this is a bad thing for Watford, because they're making the changes. They've taken a time out, as it were, as have Leicester, but Leicester were riding on the crest of a wave of going 2 goals up. Now it's starting again, almost like restarting from half-time, and I'm sure Watford will be eager to just get at their opponents straight away, and as I say, try and get themselves that second goal just to close the gap and have it as a close game again, because the longer it goes at 2 goals, the easier it gets for Leicester.
Yeah, a chance to regroup, and yep, the fans have got their phones out, looking at Leicester's upcoming fixtures. Everton away in the week, Burnley away as well next Saturday. You can catch both those games on this service, as well as their match home to Tottenham on the 19th and Brighton at home as well on Sunday the 23rd. Claudio Ranieri is asking the question of do we know how long this will go on? I don't think anyone really knows at the moment. I saw Daniel Batman, I think he went down the tunnel to maybe have a toilet break, as they are going to make those 3 changes. So I know Ashley Fletcher's one of those to come off. Did you say Tom Cleverley? And I'm not quite sure who the other one was.
Yeah.
Ken Semmer was definitely coming on, wasn't he?
Yeah, Cleverley was definitely one of the other changes. I don't think we've seen the third change go up on the board just yet. It might be Tufan if he stood over there then, because Cleverley's there as well. Yeah,
Tufan stood by the sideline. He's not taking his gloves off though, which would be a telltale sign. But he's still there as the players just play the ball between themselves.
See, we can see perfectly. I don't know why they're not just playing in a dimmer light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we're not used to seeing, isn't it? We don't see it very often at all.
No, it's a strange situation, isn't it? We're seeing Ken Semmer on the field now, trying to, like him, Gosling and Kutsar have gone through the warm-up, and now they're going to have to do it all again, aren't they? They're supposed to get a touch of the ball by doing it this way. The Swede just twisting and turning on his own there. With the ball at his feet. Ashley Fletcher's already got his big jacket on and is taking a bit of advice from the coaches and his teammates, as Brendan Rodgers and Tom Cleverley have a chat on the sidelines. Pat on the back there from Brendan Rodgers to Tom Cleverley, who's certainly got the right colour boots on when it's gone dark. His nice fluorescent yellow ones there, But yeah, it's all a bit of a surreal one on this independent off-tube studio commentary. Leicester 3, Watford 1, but the lights have gone out of the King Power.
I suppose it's a good time to look at elsewhere, because there has been goals elsewhere in games where the floodlights haven't failed. It's Barnsley 2, Barrow 0. Boreham Wood still beating Wimbledon as the lights are back up now at the King Power. Kidderminster 0, Reading 1, Newcastle 0, Cambridge 1, potentially the shock of the round. Peterborough have retaken the lead against Bristol Rovers. They lead by 2-1. It's Port Vale 0, Brentford 1, QPR 0, Rotherham 0. West Brom are beating Brighton by 1-0 at the Hawthorns, and it's Wigan 1, Blackburn 1. Lights are on. Normal service resumed.
Yeah, the full beams are on, aren't they? It's really bright. Tifang, Cleverley and Fletcher the men to go off. Kuchar, Sema and Goslin, those to come on to the field. So Goslin, Kuchar and Sissoko will make up the middle three now for the Hornets. Sema will play, I'm guessing, either from the right or left. João Pedro for the middle and Hernandez, the other man in their attack. And Batman has returned. I think he went to the toilet during that, but I saw him come back onto the field. So we are back up onto the full complement of players. And the ball returns to Mike Dean, who then sprays it out to Vestergaard. And there's all a bit of a confusion how we're going to get back going. It's a free kick to Leicester. And young Lewis Brunt will be the man to take it. His early part of his career, I bet this has never happened to him before, and maybe will never happen to him in his rest of his career either. As Leicester back underway, back to Danny Ward, who's a player we've not really had to mention so much. Madabadua, he turns nicely, and lovely footwork to work it wide to Chowdhury. Chowdhury sprays it to Albrighton. Leicester going right to left in this second half. Independent off-tube studio commentary in the usual blue shirts, white shorts and blue socks. All red this afternoon for Watford. As Brunt plays it behind Maddison, but Maddison was expecting it. And, well, those two, you imagine, on another day, Brunt will be playing in Maddison's position. They're almost a carbon copy of each other to look at. Both quite tall, blonde hair, white boots on. Long sleeves as Chowdhury sweeps it to Vestergaard, who motions to come forward, then just goes back to Chowdhury, quarterbacking the team somewhat from the back line. Now Albrighton, who invites the tackle from Semet. The pass back is rushed to Chowdhury, then he loses out to João Pedro. And again, they might be 3-1 up, but Leicester are giving Watford chances as it's then hammered into Rabbi Morris and through to Danny Ward. I mentioned we've not mentioned Danny Ward as much. He's not had too much to do, but 28 years old, still a regular for Wales. But you wonder what he's. I think he went to Leicester when it looked like Kasper Schmeichel was going to go to Chelsea, didn't he? Because before they got Kepa Arrizabalaga, and it's a strange situation. But it's such a talented player. Played at Liverpool, was in and out there for obvious reasons. You thought Leicester would be a good stepping stone, and you wonder how long he'd be happy to stay on the bench for, but this is 3 or 4 seasons now.
Yeah, and we see it a lot in goalkeepers. Goalkeepers are a bit of a strange breed in that respect, in terms of that sometimes you can be a number 2 and be content with that. We now see goalkeepers being content with being a number 3 or 4. Look at Tom Heaton at Manchester United.
It's a career, isn't it? You think of Rob Green and Richard Wright and Stuart Taylor and people like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Marcus Bettinelli left Fulham to go and be third choice at Chelsea. So, you know, goalkeepers really see themselves as part of a team unit, which is the goalkeeping unit. And they work to push the other goalkeepers, and they're always there helping them pre-match and training and everything. So even though you're not having the 90 minutes, you're still a massive part. But Danny Ward is a goalkeeper who could play 90 minutes week in, week out in the Championship, you know, or potentially for a lower Premier League side. However, because we haven't seen him do it week in, week out, you also can't then say, oh yeah, he'd be a good number 1 for a team, because you don't know, because these goalkeepers haven't been as a number 1. Tom Heaton showed he's a brilliant number 1. Marcus Bettinelli had been in and out of teams throughout his career. So you don't know with him. It's really strange. But I think it's a shame for Danny Ward, but Kasper Schmeichel's getting on. And if Danny Ward bides his time, he might get his chance. On the flip side, he might not. Schmeichel might get to the age where he decides he's had enough, and they come in and sign another goalkeeper for 40, 50 million. We don't know.
Yes, because they do have a bit of money, don't they, as well, Leicester. Of course, another goalkeeper in a similar situation was Jack Butland. He played for only the 5th time, I think, for Crystal Palace today. They won 2-1 at Millwall in one of the earlier games. And Jack Butland, he was pretty much the England goalkeeper at one point, wasn't he? And then he got that injury, and then, unfortunately, he's struggled a bit since then as Ken Sema breaks forward into the box. Still going Sema. Chowdhury doesn't offer a tackle. Sema should have gone for goal himself. He went square to Hernandez, who couldn't get it under his spell. It was under his feet and couldn't get it out of them. And the move broke down, but he just wanted Sema to just put his foot through it there.
Yeah, it was bizarre, wasn't it? Because he kept getting round people, despite the fact at no point did he look in complete control of the ball. But he managed to bundle his way through, and then at the point that he should have shot, the ball was almost behind him or stuck under him, and in the end he couldn't actually rake his foot through it and, you know, actually get a shot at goal. But it was better from Watford again. Sema's come on to do exactly that. He's playing off the left, so he'll be cutting inside onto his right foot as much as he possibly can. But at the moment, it's again close, but not close enough for Watford.
Yes, as Cathcart now has it just inside his own half, who sprays it wide to Serralta, the man who gave away the penalty in the first half. Kidderminster, the lowest ranked side in the competition. They're 1-1 now with Reading at home. Boreham Wood still leading AFC Wimbledon 1-0. Looks like Port Vale are going to get one back against Brentford as well. The Bees were 2-0 up, 1-0 up at half time. They've doubled their advantage since then. I think Vale are about to get one back. West Brom 1-0 up against Brighton. We're down to 10 men. Watford coming forward. Kucha, first touch for him. Heavy one, but he comes inside. Ooh, nice footwork by the Slovakian. Didn't quite want to get the shot away. Similar to Sema, seemed a bit reluctant to go for goal himself, and eventually it trundles out for a throw. It will be a Watford ball, though. Jeremy Ngakia back to Francisco Serralta. We are well into the final quarter of this game, and as Watford come forward, Jack will take us through to the end.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Approaching the 70-minute mark. Leicester 3, Watford 1. Does Leicester have themselves a throw in here on their far right-hand side, level with the edge of their own 18-yard box? I would say the game well poised, but Leicester 2 goals ahead, looking comfortable. We did have sort of an outage of 7 or 8 minutes where the floodlights failed, so we'd expect quite a bit of time to be added on here. We've not quite seen the reaction from Watford that we expected. They made 3 changes not that long ago. Ken Sema, Uri Kutsa and Dan Gosling coming on. And here is Kucha. The ball into the penalty area, looking for Hernandez, who brings it down well. Hernandez pulls it back for Gosling, who sets João Pedro. It's off the bar. Gosling then tries to follow it in. It's just about beaten to it by, I think it might have been Lewis Brunt who got the header away. Big Watford chance, but the bar keeps it out.
The bar keeps it out. The goalkeeper gone to his left-hand side. I think it's deflected onto the crossbar, isn't it? Pedro's strike. They're coming forward again. Another throw to Watford, but it'd be interesting to see who got that block. Was it Vestergaard who just about got across quickly enough to make the challenge and deflect it onto the crossbar? But another chance for Watford. Yeah, we were saying if Leicester got another 2-goal lead, the tie would be done. But if Watford get another one, you never know.
Yeah, just looking at a replay as Kutsa put the ball in, Hernandez was in an offside position, so had it have gone into the back of the net, it wouldn't have counted. It was Vestergaard who threw his body in the way and made the block up onto the crossbar. He celebrated like he'd scored a goal, Yannick Vestergaard, as well, when the ball was cleared away, which is always good to see from a defender, celebrating a block like that. But it was important that he threw his body on the line there.
Absolutely, and he's a very good defender, isn't he, Vestergaard? Obviously, he's known for being tall pretty much, but he's also really good awareness. He's coached Chowdhury through the game. Chowdhury playing centre-half this afternoon. If you're just joining us, he has played there before, but not regularly. An old hand, an experienced hand like Vestergaard has helped him out as Vestergaard wins the header, and Leicester come forward again. Lookman did look suspiciously offside. Either way, Batman clears long.
Yeah, long ball forward for Mark Albrighton to have to deal with. Just hooks it away for a Watford throw in here. The Hornets potentially preparing another substitution out in their dugout, as they've got a throw in here then midway inside their own, midway inside the Leicester half, should I say. As Moussa Sissoko finds Francisco Serralta, who turns and will play it out to the right-hand side. And it's lofted forward by Jeremy Ngakia. Hooked away. Harvey Barnes and Ngakia battle away as Ngakia wins the header. Not once, but twice. And Lewis Brunt then battles as well as João Pedro finds Uri Kutsa. And then Ngakia. And Watford in the end get out of a tight spot relatively well here as they looked to transition from right to left, but Moussa Sissoko is the man who has it just to the right of the centre circle. Into Sierra Alta on the halfway line. Now Ngakia once again, a lofted ball down the line for Kutska to try and get there in the area. It was Gosling, running through. Danny Ward read it well and dealt with it, but it's been better from Watford.
Yeah, just didn't quite have the legs there. Gosling, just I think they're going to make 2 changes. Watford, I would suspect one of them will be Josh King looking at their replacement still to come on, but yeah, there is certainly something in this for Watford, but they've had those 2 chances, hit the crossbar, that other one from Semue, just didn't quite fancy the shot. They need to be a bit more direct. Looks like there's also going to be an alteration for Leicester. Casey McAteer's going to come on for his second or third rather appearance for the first team. Jose Perez looks like he's going to make way, and McAteer will go in. Well, I thought he'd come down the right-hand side, but I think they're in a bit of a reshuffle. In fact, Josh King isn't going to be one of those changes for Watford. It looks like you might have to help me out here, Jack.
Yeah, it looks like Shakai Ford is one of them. The other one is Camille Conte. So a couple of changes then for Watford as they try and just do something a little bit different in this game. Moussa Sissoko was one of the players replaced. So there may well be a slight change in shape. I'm not sure who the other player was who came off. Did you see him, Jack?
No, just doing a quick scan of the field. Sissoko definitely, and João Pedro, which is maybe the match situation. That's why Claudio Ranieri's made the decision, but he would have definitely been one I would be keeping on.
Yeah, so Shakai Ford is the player who will be playing on the right-hand side, and an attacking player. And then the other one, Conte, is playing in the middle. And Ford actually sort of set up. Yeah, it's sort of like 2 up front now. Hernandez and Ford are the 2. As Hernandez goes chasing the ball, Chowdhury will play it all the way back to Danny Ward. So, of course, you're allowed to make 5 substitutions in the FA Cup. Watford have made all of them now. As Hamza Chowdhury plays it into Yannick Vestergaard. It is perhaps surprising that with Josh King on the bench, we've not seen him come on. Bearing in mind it's an attacking change that's been made, but it's something a little bit different, and again it's good for the younger players to be getting experience against a Premier League side.
Absolutely, and you wonder if Claudio Ranieri's got an eye on those upcoming fixtures with some quite influential players, Manuel Dennis included, not involved at the moment for Watford. Josh King could have a big part to play as Tielemans goes over the top of one of the youngsters. It's play on, and James Maddison has it.
Yeah, on the right-hand side, level with the edge of the 18-yard box. He finds the other substitute, Casey McAteer, and now Maddison again, dangerous ball in, just evades everybody. It's picked up by, that might have been McAteer on this left-hand side. And now Madi Vadua out to the right once again, brought down by Mark Albrighton, who looks to find Ademola Lookman inside the area. Albrighton on the overlap, picks the ball up, gets the byline, gets past his man, goes down in the box. Wasn't much contact. I'm not sure whether he lost his balance or what there. Mark Albrighton. There was very little protest as well from the experienced Premier League winner, as Ken